So you're dreaming of owning a logistics company, fleets rolling down highways, warehouses stacked with goods, thousands of deliveries happening every single day. On the surface, it feels like a business that can't lose. After all, almost everything people buy has to get from point A to point B somehow. But here's the catch, nobody tells you up front. Hauling more packages doesn't automatically translate into more profit. The first thing to wrap your head around is this: a logistics company doesn't actually sell trucks or warehouse space. What it really sells is motion. It's selling a promise that the right item lands in the right place, at the right moment, in the right condition. The truck is just a piece of equipment. Reliability is the actual product. And that truth forces your first big decision. What kind of logistics business are you really building? Running packages across town is a completely different animal from hauling freight coast to coast or shipping containers across oceans. The longer and more layered the journey, the more infrastructure you'll need to pull it off. Let's start simple. You buy one truck, land a customer, and start hauling loads. On paper, getting in the door looks easy enough, but that first vehicle is just the opening line of a much longer invoice. Insurance, licensing, gear, software, and enough reserve cash to survive the wait for customer payments. These can stack up fast and blow past your initial budget. And the moment that truck hits the road, the math shifts again, because now you're bleeding money with every single mile. Fuel, driver pay, upkeep, coverage, financing, they all ride along. Sure, revenue climbs with each delivery, but if your cost per mile climbs even faster, hauling more freight can actually shrink your profit instead of growing it. So where does the actual money come from if every mile has a price tag? At its core, you charge more to move a customer's goods than it costs you to move them. That gap is your margin. But in this industry, that gap can be razor thin. So thin that a small bump in fuel prices, labor costs, or a pricing misstep can wipe it out entirely. And here's another wrinkle. You don't fully control what customers are willing to pay. When freight outnumbers available trucks, rates climb. When too many carriers are all chasing too little freight, rates crash. Translation? The market can shrink your margin before your truck even leaves the lot. That unpredictability is exactly why many logistics companies chase long-term contracts instead. Deals where clients commit to steady shipments in return for locked-in pricing and guaranteed capacity. Contracts smooth out revenue, sure, but they bring their own risk. Once you've promised the capacity, you're on the hook to deliver it. No excuses. And this is where growing bigger starts to get risky. One broken down truck is a headache. 100 trucks means 100 different ways for things to go sideways. But scale has an upside too. Bigger fleets can negotiate cheaper fuel, spread tech and management costs across more shipments, and squeeze more efficiency out of the whole network. Which brings us to one of the strangest quirks in this industry. A truck can be driving, burning fuel, and paying a driver's wage without earning a single dollar. These are called empty miles. Finding a load for the return trip can be the exact difference between a route that turns a profit and one that quietly drains your bottom line. Once your fleet grows past a handful of trucks, this turns into a massive puzzle. Which truck should carry which load? Which route burns the least fuel? And how do you stop a truck from driving hundreds of empty miles in the wrong direction? This is precisely where technology stops being optional and becomes core to the business. But even a flawlessly planned route can unravel the second a truck gets stuck waiting. Every hour parked at a loading dock is an hour you're still paying the driver, the vehicle sits idle, and your next delivery inches closer to being late. In this line of work, time isn't just money, it's capacity itself, and once it's gone, there's no getting it back. This is exactly why so many logistics companies push beyond just transportation. If you can also store a client's inventory, pick their orders, pack them, and then deliver them, you're no longer earning from a single trip, you're earning from multiple links in the supply chain. But that also means taking on an entirely new set of responsibilities. And a warehouse has its own version of the empty truck problem. Unused space still costs money. Every square foot racks up rent, power staffing, and equipment costs, whether or not the inventory inside is actually moving. The real goal isn't just filling shelves, it's making every inch of that space earn its keep. Once you're processing thousands of orders, precision becomes an economic issue all on its own. A single wrong item shipped doesn't just create one mistake, it can spiral into a refund, a return shipment, extra labor, and a replacement order. And the costliest part of all might be invisible. A customer who quietly decides to never buy from you again. Mistakes aren't the only threat either. The cargo you're hauling can be worth far more than the vehicle carrying it. If goods get damaged, stolen, lost, or spoiled, the financial hit can be massive. That's why insurance isn't just a line item, it's one of the hidden pillars holding the whole operation upright. And here's another layer to this. Many logistics expenses don't wait around for revenue to show up. Truck payments, insurance premiums, software subscriptions, warehouse rent, office salaries, they all come due monthly, whether business is thriving or dead quiet. Those fixed costs create real pressure to keep every asset earning because a parked truck stops making money, but its bills sure don't stop arriving. And when demand finally surges, growth brings its own headache. This is a capital-hungry business. A fresh customer might promise millions in future revenue, but serving them properly could mean buying trucks, trailers, warehouse gear, and technology long before that revenue actually lands in your account. Sometimes in this game, you have to spend big before you ever see a return. Buying the equipment is only half the cash puzzle. A logistics company might finish a delivery today but not get paid for weeks. Meanwhile, fuel vendors, drivers, and mechanics still expect payment. So a business can look profitable on paper and still hit real trouble simply because the cash shows up too late. That danger multiplies when too much of your revenue rides on a single client. A massive contract can transform a small logistics company overnight. But if that one client walks away, the trucks, the warehouse space, and the staff built around them don't just vanish along with the lost revenue. One big customer can fuel your growth. Leaning on that one customer can also make you fragile. Replacing a lost client isn't simple either because basic freight hauling can turn brutally competitive fast. If several companies can haul the exact same load between the same two cities, customers start comparing prices like it's a commodity. And once that happens, everyone's racing to the bottom on rates while fuel, wages, insurance, and maintenance costs refuse to budge. This is exactly why the strongest logistics companies work hard to become harder to replace. Specialized equipment, temperature-controlled hauling, complex fulfillment services, tech integrations, or rock-solid reliability all give customers a reason to pick you over the cheapest bid. The tougher your service is to copy, the less you're forced to fight on price alone. But the more tightly connected your network becomes, the further one disruption can travel. A storm, a port delay, a closed highway, a labor shortage, or a system outage in one spot can ripple out and hit deliveries hundreds of miles away. In logistics, true resilience isn't about dodging every single problem. It's about keeping one problem from snowballing into everyone else's problem. That resilience comes at a cost, though. Backup vehicles, spare warehouse capacity, alternate suppliers, extra equipment, and redundant systems all help keep things running when something breaks. But during calm periods, some of that extra capacity just sits there unused. The real challenge is figuring out how much built-in inefficiency you're willing to pay for so that one disruption doesn't take the whole operation down with it. Even the most brilliantly designed network is worthless without people running it. Trucks need drivers behind the wheel, warehouses need hands on deck, and dispatch needs seasoned operators calling the shots. When skilled workers become hard to find or hard to keep, expensive equipment sits there gathering dust, turning what started as a staffing shortage into a straight-up financial problem. Because logistics is really just millions of tiny decisions stacked on top of each other, technology can become a serious edge. Smarter routing cuts down on wasted miles. Better warehouse systems reduce costly errors. Sharper data improves forecasting and squeezes more value out of every asset. Technology won't erase the physical grind of the work, but it can help every truck, every worker, and every warehouse pull more weight, which leads to one of the biggest strategic forks in the road for this industry. Do you own the trucks, or do you coordinate somebody else's? Asset-heavy operators pour money into their own fleets and warehouses for maximum control. Asset-light operators lean on outside partners and rented capacity to scale up without tying down as much cash. Neither approach wins automatically. They just make money and shoulder risk in completely different ways. This exact gap between shippers who need capacity and carriers who already have it is why freight brokers exist in the first place. A broker never needs to own a single truck. Their entire job is finding open capacity, negotiating the deal, coordinating the move, and pocketing a margin for solving that connection problem. Once a logistics network hits real scale, growth starts feeding on itself. More customers bring in more freight pulls in more capacity. More routes create more chances to pair trucks efficiently with loads. Scale doesn't guarantee you'll win, but a dense, well-run network gets more valuable the bigger it grows. At the global level, logistics turns into a machine built from dozens of different businesses working together. A single product might travel by truck, then ship, then rail, then warehouse, then delivery van before it ever reaches a customer's door. No single company needs to own every step of that chain, but somebody has to manage the handoffs, because every transfer point is another place where time, money, or information can quietly slip away. And this is where the numbers get surprising. The company moving the most freight isn't always the most successful one. A business can haul enormous volumes and still barely turn a profit on each shipment. What actually matters is what's left over after trucks, wages, facilities, partners, and overhead all get paid. And when margins are already razor thin, it rarely takes one massive disaster to sink a company. A handful of contracts, too much debt, poor asset use, slow-paying customers, rising costs, or growth that spirals out of control can quietly drain the financial cushion over time. In logistics, failure usually starts long before the trucks ever stop rolling. The strongest logistics companies aren't necessarily the ones with the biggest fleets or the largest warehouses. They're the ones that price risk properly, keep every asset earning, control their costs, protect their cash flow, and deliver on their promises every time. The real edge isn't owning the most. It's running the entire system better than everyone else in the game. So can owning a logistics company actually build real wealth? Yes, but not simply because the world will always need things transported. The winners are the ones who build a genuine edge, guard their margins fiercely, survive the rough patches, and grow without letting complexity spin out of their control. The opportunity here is massive, so is the risk of getting the execution wrong. So should you get into logistics? Only if you truly understand what you'd be signing up for. You wouldn't just be buying trucks, warehouses, or software. You'd be taking on thousands of moving parts, razor-thin margins, constant uncertainty, and the chance to run the whole system better than anyone else out there. At the end of the day, a logistics company isn't really selling trucks, warehouses, or miles driven. It's selling certainty in a world that's anything but certain. The promise that something will arrive exactly where it needs to be, exactly when it needs to be there. If this broke down the real economics of logistics for you, hit like and subscribe for more deep dives like this one. And if you're curious how other capital-heavy industries actually make or lose their money, check out the next video waiting for you right now.